a fight story too. Let me tell it.
Hey, can I say you pick the rock up so you don't break your knuckles.
Oh, he broke every bone in his hand, and he saw the cast off 2 weeks later and just rolled with it.
Good. Nice. You're like holding a lighter, like a roll of quarters, so your hand doesn't give. I guess there's less chance to break your knuckles.
Yeah, he actually broke his hand hitting that guy.
So my father was a much different guy. You know, your father was the badass of northern Georgia. My father was the certified public accountant in Morristown, New Jersey. And nice. We're at the movies. And this guy, he's 17 years old, he's driving his car. And he heads up to these two 15-year-olds and kind of slams on the brakes, you know, too aggressively. And the 15-year-olds raise their arm in such a way that shows they're displeased. And the 17-year-old driving wants none of this. He gets out of the car, and he starts threatening to fight these two kids. And
he's looking for a fight.
Yeah. Well, he was drunk. That was the deal. So the drunk driver gets out of his car, and now he's ready to beat up these younger kids. And it was 2-on-1, but the kids were instantly scared. They were intimidated, and it wasn't going well. And my father saw this going down, and goes over to the kid and tells him to bug off or whatever. Now the kid wants to fight my father, and while he's not like a true badass, or at least I never thought of him that way. He's a 6 foot, 200 pounds ex-naval pilot, and so that it gets into wrestling, and my father and this pretty athletic 17-year-old go to wrestling, and they land on the hood of the driver's car, and the thing gets all smashed in. And my father pushes him back, and he's like, "You want more? We can head to the trunk." And that was his badass line that made me laugh. So anyway, the 17-year-old kind of left the younger kids alone, got back in the car, and drove away with a little bit of body damage. That's his fight story.
Man. Yeah, road rage can lead to some pretty serious altercations.
You guys had all these badass dads.
Let me tell you this story, because this is actually a pretty good one. My cousin and I we got to a four-way stop, a four-way red light, and to my right there was a car coming, and it hadn't quite slowed down enough. I was worried that maybe it was going to run the red light, so I didn't go right away, even though my light was green. And there's a car behind me that just lays on the horn, and I'm not talking about one of those beep, just like, hey buddy, let's go. He's like, wah, and I turn around, I'm like, what the fuck? And I look back, and I'm like, the guy's looking at me, and he can see me in the mirror, and I like mouth, fuck you, and turn around and give him the bird. And it's this black guy in this like shitty ass car. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that guy's problem was. And so we drive about a quarter of a block, and my cousin's like, he wants you to pull over. And I look back, and the guy's like motioning, he's like pointing toward his right, like pull over. I'm like, well, he just made a fucking mistake, because I'm like 18 years old. I'm going through that phase where it's like, nobody's gonna fuck with me. And I've actually got what I called my thumper in the truck with me, which is basically about 15 inches of the end of a baseball bat with duct tape wrapped around it. So I'm like, all right, this guy's gonna have a bad day. So I'll hop out with that, and I run up to his passenger side window, and I start screaming at him. I'm like, yeah, you want me to fuck you up? You want to fuck you up, you piece of shit? And he's like terrified. He like backs up into the car. He's like, I'm a judge. And I'm like, oh no. He might as well have pulled out a double-barreled shotgun. I was like, time to go. I like jump back in the truck. Scott at this point is like running around the truck like he's there to back me up. He's like, I was going to get him from the driver's side and drag him out. I'm like, no. So we take off out of there. I'm worried the guy's going to get my plates. So I just drive right into the intersection. I don't even look for cars. We could have easily been T-boned. I'm on sidewalks. I'm driving through parking lots. Anything to get the fuck out of there. We drove around for an hour just in the wrong direction away from home to avoid the police. Because I just knew that guy was going to be calling the cops. But if you're ever in a situation where you think somebody's going to beat the hell out of you, just yell, I'm a judge, because that's better than a gun. That scared the shit out of me.
That's nice.
I got all these badass stories. I mean, the last fight I was in, I spray painted the guy in the eyes.
Oh, man. Ouch. That's almost as bad as fucking
And the reason I was doing it is because I was losing the fight.
So you just had a can of spray paint handy?
No, basically we got in an altercation, like an argument over a video game. It was real young. I was like 14 at the time, and he was 17, I think. And he was a lot bigger than me at that time. And so I think he beat me at a game. I forgot which game it was, and I was upset about it because I've always took losing at video games pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I push him, and he pushes me back, and then I go outside, and we had like this little shed outside, more much nothing, like a little rickety old man shed, and he comes back gloating and all. So I smack him as hard as a 14-year-old guy can smack him in the upper chest. And he pushes me into the shed wall so hard it like knocks my breath. And I like fell down. And when that happened, a can of spray paint fell in my hands from off of a shelf. So my first instinct was to hit him with it.
Wow. You were for the eyes.
So he was crying and shit, and so I was just laying into him, just like standing up over him.
Oh, no mercy, huh? There's no mercy rule after you spray paint somebody in the eyes.
You didn't just kick him in the ass. In humiliation mode.
Well, I knew I couldn't beat the guy physically.
I'm afraid I don't have any badass fight stories except for most of my stuff happened when I was really young. So I remember being about 5, 6 years old, and I had a temper when I was little, like really, really bad. And there was this like 9, 10-year-old kid pushing me around. I remember I went with my cousin to one of his friend's house, and his little brother was like pushing me around for no reason. And at first it was all fun and games or whatever, and then like he pushed me a little too hard, and I saw red, so I got pissed off and just belted him right in the nose, and I broke his nose. And that's about the only fight story I have, but it was pretty funny because his brother got blamed for it and not me. So
I had a similar story at a similar age. This kid he lived on my block, and we were always kind of friendly, but for no reason that day, he just decided it was like pick on Woody day. And the one thing that he did that made me see red is he had like, I'm going to call it chewed up cereal in a straw. And he pointed it at me as if he were going to blow it at me, but there was a screen door in between us, so I thought that he wouldn't really do it and didn't take evasive action. And he did it, and it went right through the screen door, and it was like chewed up cereal or crackers in a straw, like worse than a speedball, right? And that was it. I called him out. But he was pretty convinced that he could beat me up, and he wasn't concerned about it. But the thing was, he was prepared for like a 9-year-old fight, which is mostly a wrestling match. And that's not how I went into it. I went straight for the punching, and I hit him in the face. It broke his glasses, which cut his face. And I had full mount on him, and he punched me in the ear at one point. So I punched him right back in the ear. And he started to cry, and it went really well. And I even remember one of the older kids, like the masters of the block, being like, "I thought it was going to be a stupid wrestling match. This is a good fight," and it was. It was a nice victory. And yeah, he spent the whole day picking on me for reasons I still don't understand.
I gotta say, I'd hate to be anybody fucks with me now, because I'm at the point where I know I can't fight. So if you get an altercation with me,
it starts dirty.
You get hit with something.
Yep.
Pull a Ric Flair and throw him in the eye and stuff and go for the low blows.
Wings is like, this is to the death, buddy. You really don't want to start this.
Hey, on current events, do you guys know who Gary Faulkner is?
No.
No.
So Gary Faulkner went off to Pakistan to hunt down Osama bin Laden by himself.
Machete.
He had a machete in his hand, and he really planned this out. I don't know if this was his first trip. I heard something about 5 to 6 trips. I don't know if I read that he had saved enough money for 5 or 6 trips, or that he had gone 5 or 6 times. But this guy goes to Pakistan and hunts down Osama bin Laden with machetes by himself. And so how was
his goal? His goal is to bring back his head.
Yeah.
I would have brought the machete, but I at least took a weapon with me to deal with the,
Like, everyone else has AK-47s.
Imagine for a second if he succeeded. If he came back across the Pakistani border drenched in blood with Osama bin Laden's head in one hand and a machete in the other, like bullet wounds in his arms and legs, and he was like, "Where's my $25 million? Let's do this."
I picture him going through airport security with Osama bin Laden's head in a bowling ball bag. Just like checking it in. Passes right through the